This episode of the Maggid Method is actually a short, impactful clip from another podcast, the Makor Podcast, produced by one of my previous guests, Rabbi Yaakov Sadigh, a visionary head of school, formerly at Katz Hillel Day School in Boca Raton, and now head of Hillel Yeshiva High School in New Jersey. Rabbi Sadigh generously gave me permission to repost an excerpt from his interview with Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, senior rabbi of Boca Raton Synagogue in Florida. The theme of their conversation was, how can we build the vital life skill of resilience in our children during uncertain times? This excerpt is very timely as we head into the back-to-school swing of things. Invariably, at the beginning of the school year, some parents are unhappy with the school's choice of class, or teacher, or some other placement the school chose for their child, and they want to switch those placements. And it can be a very stressful and frustrating time for everybody. The school is already overwhelmed, trying to get up and running for the year ahead, and the torrent of phone calls and emails from the parents just throws gas on the fire. But at the same time, as a parent, I get it. You don't want your child's school year to get off to a bad start. So the natural reaction is to address the issue as quickly as possible with the school. Anyways, the part that I found really interesting is how the conversation veered into the intersection of institutions between shul and school, where you have, for instance, a rabbi of a shul who a large demographic of his members send their kids to a certain school, and the rabbi has their ear for his prime time Shabbos morning speaking slot. So the question becomes, can there be some advanced collaboration between the rabbi and the school, or other community institution or organization for that matter, in crafting a message for the rabbi's sermon that will support the institution's efforts? So now, listen in on this short conversation between two great Jewish visionaries and community leaders, Rabbi Yaakov Sadigh and Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, to hear what they have to say. I also want to bring your attention to the brilliance of Rabbi Goldberg, who stresses the importance of nuance when dealing with complicated issues such as these, and how strong leaders always understand that rarely are solutions one size fits all. So now, without further ado, here's Rabbi Yaakov Sadigh's conversation with Rabbi Efrem Goldberg, courtesy of the Makor Podcast on the Maggid Method.
Would you say that the Rabbanim can play a role in teaching resilience to the parents to give over to their children also? Because at the end of the day, it's very difficult. We're wired innately to jump in front of our kids. As many times as we regret it and say, why did I call the school so quickly? Why did I scream at that teacher? Why did I? And then 2 weeks later, their child is complaining and they feel that he is hurt or suffering, and they can't help it. That's how Hashem created us. That's how we're wired. So we're trying to tackle that on the school front. Are we doing a great job? We're trying. It's hard. Right. Is there a role in shuls and in the Rabbanim to talk about? Do you talk about it in your drushas? You mentioned,
rabbis have a captive audience on Shabbos morning, or we used to actually, not necessarily anymore, but we have a relatively captive audience, and I guess to a certain degree, we can try to inspire some conversations around Shabbos tables by being provocative, not in a negative way, but trying to get people to talk about it. And it's an interesting thing. It never occurred to me. I wonder if schools and shuls can coordinate drasha topics. So let's say, right before school lists are released, say, hey, Rabbi, this Shabbos, maybe build into the drasha the value of not running interference to try to switch where your kid is. And even though many of the listeners will be like, yeah, that was for my neighbor, but my kid needs to be switched. But in all seriousness, maybe there could be a much better coordination on themes, on topics, and in the other direction too. Hey, could school, we're working on this effort, could you communicate through the kids or reward the parents if we collaborate and do it together? I think there's definitely a lot of room to do that. Love the idea. The
next time we're at the VAD meeting, maybe
for sure.
Bring this up. Now, interestingly, my first Shabbos here, before school started, Rabbi Blumenthal, who is the Rav of BRS West, where I daven, got up, and in his drasha, I was mortified. He said, school is beginning this week. Do not call Rabbi Sadigh about switches, about things that he has a lot to do. He just got here, and he has to get this school up and running. I was in the back crawling under that.
Right.
He said it. He said, do not call the school. They've placed the kids. The school's ready to go. Just give your kids a feeling that it's going to be great at the kitchen table, at breakfast, at the Shabbos table. They hear you, talk positively that they're going to have a great year. So
but I think one of the things that's missing for too many people, I know you appreciate this and I try to do this, is nuance and subtlety. So, even if a rabbi heard this or were inspired and said, I'm going to give that drush, they'd get up and they'd be like, nobody called it. I think there needs to be subtlety that says, I'm not telling you what to do, and everybody's child or circumstance is different, and maybe the right thing for your child is for you to make that call. But I want to challenge you to think about this before you do. And I think that subtlety makes it, people are much more
100%.
Open to hearing it. And that's with all these things, and that's our job in general, right? Is I just want to challenge us to think about this before we do that. Like, take a deep breath, take a pause, and if at the end of challenging ourselves, say, yeah, this meets the criteria that I think this gets a call. And you know what? As much as I'm desperate to, I'm not going to. Yeah.
It's amazing. I'd love to work on that partnership.
Right.
That was Rabbi Yaakov Sadigh and Rabbi Efrem Goldberg in conversation on the Makor Podcast. Makor, Makor. Look for it on social media. I'll put a link in the show notes. And you can find Rabbi Efrem Goldberg almost everywhere these days. I'll also put a few links in the show notes. Now, I have a small favor to ask, one that can make a big difference. Your feedback is invaluable to me. By taking a moment to rate and review this podcast, you're not only showing your support, but also helping it reach new heights. Picture this: more reviews means more visibility. More visibility means more incredible guests lining up to share their stories and expertise with you. So, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, how about making some magic happen? Scroll down, tap that rating, jot down a few words. It's that simple. Your action today can pave the way for even greater experiences tomorrow. Thanks for your support. This has been Daniel Steinberg on the Maggid Method.